We're asking for the bare minimum necessary to fully educate our children. We did the hard work. We put the case forward. We had all of the data and statistics, all of that work that we did for all of those years and all of those phone calls and conversations and the deposition. They weren't for nothing.
The New York State Constitution guarantees every child a right to a sound basic education, no matter what that child's educational background is or family background, financial background is. They're all supposed to receive that same sound basic education.
In the late 90s, there was a big debate about what that actually meant. And students in the New York City school district actually sued the state because they weren't able to get a lot of the basic resources you would need for a sound basic education. And the state's response was creating what we now call the foundation aid formula to determine the cost on a district by district level of what each student would need. 2007 is when the state announced the foundation aid formula. And since then, they've never actually funded the full formula.
So in 2014, a complaint was filed against the state. The purpose of the complaint was to enforce the rights of all students in all districts across the state.
The Court of Appeals said you can't bring a claim on behalf of the entire state. You need to litigate this district by district. And so it became a much bigger case than the original plaintiffs were able to handle. And they decided to work with Education Law Center, who has a really good relationship with White & Case.
I went to White & Case, and the firm embraced that opportunity completely and gave us an incredibly talented, significant group of young lawyers.
White & Case was brought onto this case in 2018, which was my first year at the firm, and I really grew up with this case.
And so our plaintiff in Schenectady was Jamaica Miles, who is an activist both in education and in civil rights.
I'm a mom, and I need my children to have access and opportunity so that they can succeed. The city of Schenectady is one of the poorest school districts in the state.
About 79% of students in Schenectady are considered economically disadvantaged, and 77% are eligible for free or reduced price lunch. On average, 83% of students in grades 3 through 8 couldn't read at grade level, and 87% couldn't do basic math at grade level.
I just had to continue to fight and look for what are the other tools and resources we can use to ensure that our children get the education they deserve.
It's one of the first cases that I was put on, and working that much on a big pro bono or strategic litigation like this case was, it was a fantastic opportunity for me to train myself.
Having the ability to have immediate client contact, have a say in all of the strategy decisions throughout the case is very rare and really valuable.
I think there is a real benefit to everybody getting to work on these cases and just like how meaningful they are. Like, this is like a constitutional case about access to education. Like, this is the kind of case that you like go to law school dreaming about. The pandemic was catastrophic for Schenectady because Governor Cuomo threatened 20% education cuts.
We lost almost 400 positions. We were already hemorrhaging and using Band-Aids to try to help our kids. And then in comes an axe. It was devastating.
And so we went into court and demanded that Governor Cuomo would commit to providing the full funding, or we were going to take them for a hearing to demonstrate the irreparable harm that was being suffered.
About a week later, the state comes out and says that they are no longer going to cut the budgets and that they are going to reimburse the districts.
Governor Cuomo walked back the cuts and was like, okay, we're not going to do the 20% cut. Even more amazing was, we're Schenectady. We can only bring a case on behalf, we can only talk about the impact of Schenectady, but there was no way for the governor to be like, all right, we're not going to cut 20% off of Schenectady, but we're going to do it for the rest of the state. So they walked it back for all of the districts in the state.
And then shortly after that, with a new governor coming in, there was an announcement that they were going to fully fund all of foundation aid.
New York State has agreed to phase in $4.2 billion, that's with a B, over 3 years, and that's tens of millions of dollars for the city of Schenectady.
What we reached was a very, very good agreement from our perspective, because it allowed us to put the case on hold while we wait to see if the state lives up to its commitment. However, if it is not fully funded, we're able at that point to go immediately into court, immediately into trial, and force the state to do what they promised to do beforehand.
Winning this case proves that every district should be fully funded. Schenectady may have been the leader, but we were leading for the entire state.
Lots of people could read in the newspaper that some of the most vulnerable kids in the district are having their funding pulled in the middle of the pandemic. But there's not that many jobs that give you the opportunity, the skills and the resources to do something about it. Our job is a superpower.
Without White and Case, I don't know what this would have looked like. I can't imagine moving forward with a case of this magnitude and this significance with any other team. I had the support that I needed and the knowledge and understanding to keep pushing forward every single day.